important for us to tell our other people when we do marketing food to convince the other people about the value of food. So the current trend is more towards to functional food. Functional food means active food and also nutraceuticals and immune boosters. With this COVID pandemic, a lot of people asking, we want to develop immune booster. We want to sell immune boosters. And also all these things come under health promoting food. What is food processing? So in food processing, handling and treating of food for maintaining or improving nutritional and sensory qualities, both nutritional and sensory qualities as a food and increasing shelf life by avoiding spoilage. So according to the definition, to increase the shelf life, food processing, by doing food processing, we are trying to increase the shelf life by improving the nutritional quality and sensory quality of food. So there are different categories of food processing industries: cereal, legume, pulse processing, then fruit and vegetable, yam, nut processing industries, then dairy processing, the fish, meat and egg processing industries, spices and condiment processing industries, etc. There are different food industry, the categories of food industry. So why do we need food processing? We know that maybe some fruits or some vegetables, some cereals, we cannot eat when it is raw or when it is fresh. So we have to make food more tastier or palatable or safer, we have to do food processing. At least cooking we have to do. If we take rice as an example, so to eat rice, we have to cook it. We cannot eat raw rice. So likewise, make food more tasty and palatable and safer, we need food processing. And also to make shelf-stable products by preventing or inhibiting spoilage. By processing, we can prevent or inhibit the spoilage of food items. And also by processing, we can kill or slow down the activity of microorganisms. In processing and food preservation, we add a lot of preservation methods or food processing methods to inactivate or slow down the activity of microorganisms. And again, sometimes we can destroy or halt in the activity of enzymes by applying different food processing techniques. So by food processing, we can prevent the loss of fresh produce during the glut season or during the season. So during the season, you get a lot of fruits. So if we take tomato as an example, during the season, you have a lot of tomato. But after 2-3 months, there's no tomato. The tomato price goes very high. So lime, same story with lime, even mango. So nowadays, actually, we can find mangoes even off season, but during the season, you have enough of these commodities, but off season, there's a scarcity. So therefore, to prevent loss of fresh produce during season and also to overcome the shortage of fresh produce off season, food processing is very much important. And also by processing, it allows more convenient packaging. So you can put it into a small glass jar or package, the processed food, and then you can keep it. And also it adds economic value to raw materials. Rather than selling raw materials, if you do a processed food, then it adds economic value to the raw material. And also by processing, more important is we can make variety of products available. That means value-added products. So that is the beauty of food processing. So you can have a range of food products, from a single commodity. So if I take this example, the fresh mango, you can eat as it is, so fresh mango, but there are various processing techniques and various final products you can convert this fresh mango into these final products. Dehydrated mango, then freeze dried, osmotically dehydrated, mango candies, then some other dessert, mango milk, mango jelly, mango ice cream. And we come to the other side, bottling and canning, pickle mango, bottle mango, then the mango chutneys, and sometimes mango pieces in jars, and also wine and spirits also you can make through by mango. Then famous mango puree beverages. Not only that, even raw mango, you can have raw mango juice, raw mango beverages, and also pickle. So likewise, by food processing, you can make these fresh produce into variety of shelf stable or shelf life extended products. So what is this food processing? The food processors, what do they do? The food processors transform the raw agricultural products, either plant, animal or marine, into palatable food products through the application of labor, machinery, energy, and also scientific knowledge. So in this process, the food processing process, finally you get the product which has the consumer acceptance by incorporating energy, that is machinery, then labor, and also when you incorporate raw material and other ingredients, and then you do packaging, you get the product. Then this product, you have to go through the regulations, food regulation, and also safety management. Then finally, once you get the final product, you can do costing, marketing, and then distribution to the consumer. So all these process, when you go through this process, you need the knowledge. Sometimes maybe knowledge on food science, sometimes maybe knowledge on marketing and distribution. So this is the outline of my presentation. Okay, then we will go to the presentation, how to start a new food processing business. So I will tell you why it is sustainable when I am going through this presentation. So before you start a new food business, you have to have a dream to start a food business. You have to have an idea or dream to start a food business. Another thing, you need to have some knowledge in this area. So if you don't have knowledge, then you have to hire the knowledge to have a sustainable food business. And also you should be self-confident to take any risk. So if you have these three things, yes, you can start a food business. Then we will see what are the main steps you have to follow to have a sustainable food business. First, you have to identify your product. If you have a dream, so there may be a dream product with you. So you have to see one product. I use this product or product. Sometimes maybe 2 or 3 products, but mostly I advise to start maybe with one product, because if you are a newcomer, if you are trying to start with many products, sometimes you will fail. So therefore, you have to stick to few products or one product. So when you select this product, you have to think about the raw material availability, potential market, and the financial availability. If you think about the raw material availability, for example, if you want to start a business related to fish bottling of spreads or bottling of prawns, then the raw material should be available within your area. If you are in Nuwara or somewhere in Nuwara or Kandy, so it's really difficult for you to get the prawns or these spreads or fish. So therefore, that type of business is very much suitable to coastal area. So likewise, depending on the raw material available, sometimes the seasonality of raw material also important here. So some fruit or vegetable may be seasonal. If you are trying to start a business, lime pickle business, so lime season is very short. So then you have to think about what you do during the off season. Okay, so raw material availability is very much important. Then the potential market and also financial availability. You have to have some amount of finance with you before you start your business. Otherwise, you will not be able to gather whatever the all requirements if you don't have enough financial availability. I mean, enough finance in your hand. Okay. So then you can do your own market research of your dream product. Okay. So if you have any idea with you, so you can go to the market, you can identify potential customers, their preference, their attitude, their perception. Sometimes you can just go to supermarkets and talk to people. Sometimes when you are taking your child to the Montessori, you can talk to other people. I am going to this type of product. Do you like it? No, so likewise, you can do your own market research. You don't need big knowledge to do that. You can, in your level, you can do market research, but if you have money, if you can afford, then you can do a good market research. So anyway, you can find the customer needs, like which product the customer purchase or continue to purchase. So sometimes if your product is one-time purchase, so then you can, it's not a sustainable business. They should ask your products over and over, again and again. So it should, the product should be continue to purchase. So then you have to introduce that type of product. So then you can identify what are the unique features of your product. So if you do the same thing what other people do, then it's really difficult to compete in the market. But if your product has a unique features, then definitely you can sell those features and you can create your own market. And market competition. So if you are going to introduce the same, I'll take the fruit juice. If you are going to introduce the fruit juice into the market, you can find what are the strong and weak points of the competitors, and then you try to find some gaps and fill the gaps. So then you can have a sustainable business. And also you can do a financial feasibility study and to see whether your product, what you are going to introduce the market, is economically viable. And the other important thing is whether it is technically feasible. Sometimes some commodities may be not available, and also some ingredients may not be available. And I will take this example as to show you about the technical feasibility. So now a lot of people say we have a lot of jack in Sri Lanka and post-harvest losses of jack is very high. So you can see during the season under the trees, you can see that jack is rotting and no one is eating this. So when anyone try to start a food business using bottle jack bulb, so this is called jack bulb. So bottle jack bulb, then bottle or can jack bulb, maybe targeting export market, then you have to have thick flesh jack. Okay, so if we take jack, we don't have commercial cultivations in Sri Lanka. So we have only home garden. We can, if you collect jack, we have to collect from home garden. Then we don't know about the variety. So some are maybe thick flesh in the bulb. Some are thin flesh. So then when you go to a processing, jack bulb in brine, then it is really difficult for you if you find thin flesh variety. Therefore, if you are thinking that it should be technically feasible, so you can do maybe dehydrated jack or minimal, so some other thing you can do. But if you think about this bottling in salt solution, brine, then you have to go for thick flesh variety. So likewise, you have to think about the technical feasibility. Then the second important point is you have to select the market. So which market you are going to send your product. So it may be retail, wholesale market, wholesale market, or supermarket channel. So depending on the market you are going to introduce your product, the requirements may be vary. Sometimes the supermarket may ask shelf life, maybe 6 months, more than 6 months shelf life. So likewise, the requirements may be vary. So the quality, they will ask GMP certificates, ISO 22000 like certificates if you are trying to supply to supermarkets and export markets. So if you want to do an export business, then you have to have an idea about your buyer specification. What are the relevant regulations in those countries? And also export development guidelines. So how to export these products. You have to get that advice from the Export Development Board, Sri Lanka. And also sometimes you have to get Ministry of Health certificate before you export your product. And also if it is a fresh products, you have to get the plant quarantine certificates. And also if it is a fish related item, Ministry of Fisheries approval. If it is animal product and meat products, Ministry of Animal Production and Health approval. So likewise, you have to have some information from these authorities. If you are going to do an import business, so import some food items and sell in Sri Lanka, you have to have an idea about the Sri Lanka custom registration and Ministry of Health food control units. You have to get some information. So whether you can import this item. So nowadays, a lot of import restrictions are there. So you have to definitely see whether your product is under restricted list. And also you have to get some information from the Sri Lankan Standard Institution if your product, if the product you are going to import is under the inspection SLSI inspection scheme, because 50 products are food products are I think 50 or 52 products are under SLSI scheme import products. So you have to see whether your product is. So likewise, depending on the market, you have to see a lot of things before you start your business. Then you have to find your financial resources. So you can have your own finance, self-finance if you have money, if you have savings to start a food business, if you have a dream before you start the business, so you may collect some money for that. Otherwise, there are some government grants, loans, or bank loans. So currently, there are different government grants. Some ministries also give grants to start food business. And also there are some special projects like agriculture modernization projects, SAP projects. So those projects, and also some NGOs give grants for new entrepreneurs to start their businesses. And also you have, sometimes you can have your own business or partnership, collaboration, then maybe 2 or 3 partners. Then you have to decide the scale of production before you before you set up your facility and import your machinery. You have to decide the scale of production. So whether you are going to start your business on micro scale, small or medium scale, or large scale. Okay, this is very much important before selection of factory, before you do the factory layout design. In machinery capacity is decided depending on the scale of your operation, and also how many labor you may need. So that's also depend on the capacity. Then raw material availability and market demand also should be considered when you decide the capacity. If the capacity is not within the Sri Lanka, the raw material capacity, then really difficult for you to go for a large scale. Then you have to go for a small or medium scale production. Okay. Then the fifth factor I wanted to tell you is the selection of suitable location. So you cannot set up your food processing facility at any place you want, because there are special guidelines, GMP guidelines to select the suitable location. Okay, so sometimes it may be when you are selecting the GMP guidelines I have given at the end, and availability or access to raw material. As according to my previous example, if your business is related to fish processing, so your factory should be located in the coastal area. And other thing is, you have to have good quality potable water, drinking quality water, if you are going to start a food business. Because if there's no good quality water, you cannot start a food business, because your food product can get contaminated. The initial microbial load of your food may be increased if your water quality is not good. So you have to be very careful whether the water quality in your area, the area where you are going to set up your facility, has good quality drinking water. Sometimes in some areas you have hard water. I can remember at one time when I was visiting a factory in Anuradhapura area. They have got all the equipment from a grant, nice equipment, tubing systems for milk pasteurization and everything. But they have abandoned all this equipment because they have not invested for water softener. So all these tubings got clogged. So because of that, you have to be very careful about the water quality. And also you have to have convenient roads to enter the premises, and also electricity facility. Sometimes some machinery may need 3-phase electricity, so you have to be careful about that. Then waste disposable. So because before you establish a facility, you have to have some guidance from the Central Environmental Authority on waste management. So for that, you have to have waste disposal facility, and also GMP regulation. You have to consider the GMP regulation when you select the location. So if you want to set up a food processing facility in a sustainable manner, you have to follow government rules and regulation. The first one is Food Acts and related regulation. I know a lot of food, the people who who are running food businesses, they don't know that there's a Food Act in Sri Lanka. So what are the prohibited area, prohibited commodity according to Act? So they don't know about the regulation. They just start food business. But if those things are not sustainable. So if you want to have a sustainable food business, definitely you have to have an idea about the Food Act and relevant regulations to Food Act, and also GMP, Good Manufacturing Practices guidelines to select your food factory location, and also when you are setting the facility, and also environmental laws and regulations, especially for waste disposal. And also government restrictions. Sometimes there are some tax procedures. For example, for some commodities, they say, no, you cannot do it in Sri Lanka. You cannot maybe import ethanol. So then ethanol related thing, ethanol processing, so really difficult for you to do. So likewise, you have to think about the government restrictions as well. Then you can do your business registration. And the most important thing, one of the important thing, your sustainable food business is the food product technology. Because I know a lot of people, they invest for everything, to set up a facility, to buy high expensive machinery, to buy labor, everything, but they don't want to invest on technology. Okay? They always try to get the technology maybe free of charge for from internet or something. So the product technology is very much important. So you can develop your own product. Okay, you can do your own research and testing, and finally you can develop your own product which has the consistency in quality. Okay, the product consistency should very much important. The quality is consistency, because if the product you develop, the taste and flavor of your product is differ from first day to second day, then no point of doing that. So quality consistency is very much important. Then standards are given. You have to ensure whether you have met all the relevant standards, and also pricing of the product. Once you develop the product, you can do your own pricing, and then you likewise you can develop your own product, and you have to do a lot of quality testing. I will tell you later. And so a lot of people think that since we are very good in cookery and we are chefs, so we can do food technology. So there's a big difference between these two, because in cookery we can develop a lot of variety of products appealing to consumer, but those things have very short shelf life. If we talk about food technology, we apply food preservation technologies and also principles, and we guarantee the safety of the product, and also shelf life is extended using science and technology. So therefore, you have to identify the difference between these two, and when you are trying to put your prepared product into a bottle and just seal it and sell, so that won't solve the problem. So you have to follow food technology principles in each and every point. Okay, so then if you develop your own product, you have to follow these steps. You have to have an idea. Then you have first to do a prototype development. Then you can do the final product development. Then final product development, if the final product development is satisfied, you can take a decision, okay, I'll go forward. Then you can do in-house testing and also testing. And then you can, if that also successful, you can do consumer testing. And finally, you can scaling up the process. Okay, so your product, whatever the food product you develop should be fit for human consumption. You can confirm that by using food testing. Okay, so then if you are getting the technology from outside technology provider, you have to, there are different places where you can get the technology. There are a lot of research institutions, and ITIMI Institute, Industrial Technology Institute, we give food technologies, then IDB, Industrial Development, HODI, Gannoruwa, under the Department of Agriculture, NIPHM, Anuradhapura, National Post Harvest Management related technologies, TRIT related technologies. So likewise, different research institute, and also university research cells, they also provide technologies. And also private establishment. There are some private establishments also who provide the technology. And also there are some independent consultants who provide food technologies. And what I see is the current trend of a lot of people is they are trying to get the technology from internet, YouTube, and sometimes maybe from machinery suppliers. So what I say, these technologies are incomplete technologies, because if you get the technology from YouTube, if you are a good in food science, and if you are a good businessman, if you are running a facility, food processing facility, then sometimes you may identify some of the points they have hidden in their videos, but otherwise it's really difficult for you to identify all the features, all the processing steps of your product. Therefore, please don't go for these things. You can just refer those things, but do not rely on these media related technologies. So if you are getting technology from a technology provider, you have to be you have to confirm, you have to ensure whether you are getting all these technology, all these steps with your technology. That is the food formulation, the formulated food, correct product process technology, complying to standards with hands-on experience. You have to get hands-on experience. Otherwise, if through leaflet, I don't think that you can you can start a sustainable business. And also you have to get an idea how to source the raw materials, ingredients, and their quality, how to maintain the quality of the raw materials. Then list of machinery needed for the production. You have to get that information from the technology provider. Then hygienic preparation and food safety information relevant to your food product. And packaging and labeling information. For example, if you are want to get a technology of ready to serve drink, for example, mango drink, mango nectar. So you have to give all this information from your technology provider about that technology. The shelf life, the expiry date of should be scientifically validated, because I personally know by experience, a lot of people just copy the shelf life from other people's products. Okay, they don't have any idea about what is shelf life and how they have to do, but they just copy from other people's product and just prepare the labels. Sometimes the label designers put the shelf life. So actually this is not a good practice, and a lot of people come to us to get the scientifically validated shelf life analysis, because when they try to send their samples to export market and also to supermarkets and maybe higher markets, the buyer asks the scientific report how they did the shelf life validation. Okay, therefore you have to, getting the technology from a technology provider, you have to confirm how they have done the shelf life, and you have get the technology with the shelf life, guaranteed shelf life, and also nutritional information. If they have done, then you can get an idea about the nutritional information. But for your product, you have to do the nutritional analysis later to prepare your nutrition panel. And also principles of food processing depending on the product technology. So you have to have an idea about the principles of food technology. Even though you are not a food technologist, you have to have a general idea which type of principles you apply. If it is a dehydrated product, so why, what is dehydration? How we do dehydration? We are removing the moisture. So what is the maximum level of moisture should be there? So likewise, you have to have those things in your mind. If additives are used, use recommended additives, quantities according to the food regulations. This is very much important, the additives, because there are different additives, maybe preservatives, colorants, and also flavors. So when you are using these things, you have to be very careful. You have to use only the recommended additives. So these things you can get from your technology provider, because they know what are the recommended additives under Sri Lankan regulations, what are the quantities you have to use according to the Sri Lankan regulations. I think you have seen these additives in E numbers or INS numbers. E number, they use IE numbers or INS, international numbering system, to identify these additives. And if you add anything like these additives in your food products, you have to put it into the label. Otherwise, people don't know whether you have added this or not. Some people may be allergic to these additives, even though you are using minute quantity, adhering to guidelines, but some people may be allergic to those things. Therefore, you have to adhere to regulations, and you have to put it in the label when you use any of these additive. And I have experience in this area, a lot of experience when working with the SMEs. Some SME, recently we analyzed a lot of SME samples to see whether we can upgrade their product to match the local and international standards. So when we were discussing with these people with their samples, we found that some people have had lot of E numbers in their labels. Okay, so for example, if it is a chutney or something like that, I saw many E numbers in that label. So I asked that lady who brought the samples, did you, what is the additive you add into this? So then she told me this is what so they have a lot of E numbers. So I asked her, why you put all these E numbers if you don't add additives? No, the label designer put all these things, but I only add this one. So that means you don't have any idea about this E numbering. Just the label designer put some of these things thinking that it gives some, it adds some value to your product. No, it doesn't add value to your product. It's very really dangerous. So if you know that you want to put additives, so you have to have the you have to have an idea about the quantity, they strictly follow the food laws and regulation, use only permitted additives, use only permitted levels based on standards, and also follow good manufacturing practices when you are using additives. And also you have to do correct labeling. You have to put in the label what you have added as an additive, not other additives which you have not put, only the additive you put. And also don't use unpermitted or prohibited additives. You are not allowed to use unpermitted or prohibited additives, because there are some unpermitted additives in the market, because some do smuggling and they have these additives, especially some colorants which are restricted under food laws, and you should not use those things. And also conditions governing the use of food additives change with the availability of research evidence. When other countries do research, sometimes they withdraw the additives from food. So then the same time in Sri Lanka also, the Food Advisory Committee removes some additives from their list. So you have to be vigilant. You have to always see whether the additive you are using is permitted. So that is why the knowledge in food science and the good technology, obtaining correct technology is very much important. So you have to, like, formalin, use of formalin in fish is not allowed. Then unpermitted colors, even hydrogen peroxide used in milk to preserve the milk is not permitted unless there's a power cut or something, only they are allowed, but otherwise you cannot use hydrogen peroxide. But still I have heard some people in Sri Lanka are using hydrogen peroxide to preserve the quality of milk. It is prohibited. And anyway, nowadays the customers' demand is more towards to additive-free food. So you have to be very careful when you are making additive-free food also. I have a lot of experience in that area, because some people thinking of making food without any additive, they just make their own juice and put into a bottle. I mean, using blenders and put into a bottle and close. So when there's no processing step or high heat or cold conditions, so there's a risk of growing microorganisms, and there's a food safety issue. So if there's no additive, if you don't want to additive, yes, there are methods, but the shelf life may be less than what the fruits with additives. Anyway, you have to get clear advices from the first people who know about these things before you start your product using additives. And also you have to use proper packaging and labeling. Packaging, actually the internal packaging, the inner packaging is very much important to protect the fruit. The outer packaging, you can use any decorations and you can get the consumer attraction by doing different decoration, but the inner package is very much important, because if your food is has high moisture and you don't want to lose that, then you have to select whatever the best suitable packaging for that. If your product is with low moisture, for example, if it is a dehydrated product, so moisture content is very low. So if you put it into a normal paper bag, so there's a moisture loss and you cannot keep the product for a long time. So likewise, the internal packaging is very much important. So you have to select the packaging depending on the product characteristics, environment, consumer attraction and everything. And also food labeling. After doing packaging, the labeling should comply to Sri Lankan labeling regulations. So ingredient list, whatever the ingredients you use should be listed in your label, because some ingredients, maybe some people are allergic to some ingredients. For example, some people are allergic to soya. So if you use soya as ingredient in your product, definitely you have to put it in the ingredient list. Otherwise, if something happened to someone, it will come back to you as a bad mark. Sometimes they can stop your business because of that type of reasons. And the nutrition labeling is the another important aspect. So you have to put the nutrition panel in your package. So sometimes the approximate composition, moisture, carbohydrate, protein, fat. So those information you can put. Sometimes you can put vitamins, mineral content, some other special parameters like antioxidants. So those things, if you are putting in your nutrition panel, you have to do the quality analysis, the analysis of these parameters from a laboratory, and then get the values correctly. And according to the current labeling regulations, you cannot put any health claims if it is not clinically proven. For example, if you make a tea, okay, if you have make a tea bag, and if you think that you can reduce your weight if you drink this tea, so you can anyway, you cannot put that in your packet: weight loss, reduce weight, zero cholesterol, reduce cholesterol level or something like that, unless you have clinically proven. You have to do clinical trials, and you have to proven clinically that it has effect of weight loss, and you have to get the approval from the health authority to put it into a label. Okay, anyway, in the Sri Lankan market, you can see different labels, but if you comply to regulation, definitely you cannot put those claims unless you have clinically proven. And also the new under new regulation, the sugar, salt and fat, the traffic light system of labeling also you have to adhere to according to the food items. And also the expiry date, shelf life evaluation is very much important. I already told you about the shelf life evaluation. So the shelf life of food is controlled by three major parameters. One is the product characteristic, including the formulation and processing parameters, that is the internal parameter, intrinsic parameters, and also the environment where you are going to expose your products, that is the extrinsic parameters, and also the properties of the packaging. So I already explained to you about that. So when you do the shelf life of any product, you have to put it into a final packaging and then do the shelf life. So you cannot do the shelf life study half away. You have to select, you have to do your product formulation, then you have to put it into the final package, and then you have to do the scientifically, the shelf life study should be done in scientific way by using physical, chemical, microbiological, and sensory parameters of the food inside. Okay. And then the ninth important factor is factory layout designing. You have to set up the factory adhering to the guidelines. So once you have selected the location, I have given a simplified factory layout designing. Actually, I got this from internet. So anyway, so if you are, before you draw your factory layout design, you have to get the advices from those who know about these things. So there are specific factors you have to consider. You cannot like raw material incoming and the finished product outgoing. These two doors should not be one door. There should be two doors. So here you can see the incoming material and outgoing in two different ends, and especially the labors, they have separate area for labor toilets and all, and also there are clear demarcation separation areas from raw material handling and packaging. So likewise you have to draw your pack house design according to the Sri Lankan GMP regulations, and then you can start purchasing machinery once you build your facility according to the GMP regulation. So purchasing machinery also very much important. So you have to consult knowledgeable people. The people who have knowledge in this area, knowledge in the sense about your process, because sometimes that machinery may not suit your maybe scale or your process. So therefore you have to be very careful when you are selecting machinery in your process. So recently I have very good example to tell you about this thing. One person, he wanted to do milk bottling. So he has ordered all the machinery from China by himself, and the machinery is on the way. And anyway, so he finally found that the machinery, the different pieces of machineries he ordered are not compatible. Then the machinery supplier has asked him to put those machinery into a aseptic room, so that this person called us to get an idea about the aseptic room. So then actually when we found that all these machinery are not suitable, so he was shocked because he has spent about 5 million money for this to buy this machinery. So before you buy the machinery, you have to get some inputs, you have to get some ideas from those who know about your processing technology. Okay, so once you start your facility, set up your factory and buy all the machinery, you can start your processing business. You have to keep your income and expenditure records, and you have to obtain quality and safety related certificates when you are doing, because when you are doing a food facility, definitely you have to adhere to quality management guidelines at the beginning. Then it is really easy for you to get the quality certificates at the end. There are two major types of certifications. One is product certification. So there are local and international product certifications, like SLS is the local product certification, BRC, TESCO, like international certifications also there. So you don't have to take all these certifications. Depending on the buyer, you have to take maybe sometimes different certifications. Then other than the product certification, you have system certification, system, GMP, HACCP, ISO 22000. So in these systems, actually, what we expect is your processing facility, then the machinery, factory, the personals who are working should comply to these guidelines. Then we finally think that when the processing line is comply to these guidelines, your product, finally the product is safe. So that's why the system certification is important, especially when you are trying to import any product to other countries. You have to, they see the certification system, because they can't come and see how you are doing your products. So they see your product through your certification, the product quality and safety through your certification. And these two are a little bit different, but anyway, both are certification system. Product certification is usually you can get by analyzing your product. Food set testing is important when analyzing, when you are getting product certification. So food certification can done for raw material testing. Sometimes you have to check the raw material before you do processing. For example, if you are doing chili paste, so you have to have an idea whether your chili is not contaminated with aflatoxin. So raw material quality checking also important there. So likewise, raw material testing, sometimes you have to do in-process testing. While you are doing your process, maybe you can do some in-house testing, pH control, pH testing, some other testing you can do in process. Then again, final product testing. Once your product is finished, you have to test your product to see whether you are comply with regulations or standards, especially Sri Lankan standards. And also for quality control purpose, you have to do testing, and also food safety control and for food labeling. Food labeling, actually, the nutritional information is very much important. For that, you have to do testing. So if you see whether your final product is fit for human consumption, you have to do all these tests: the physical parameters, chemical parameters, microbiological quality, and also the sensory quality. So that is like that the product testing is very much important. So once you start your business, the marketing you can do once you start your processing, then you can do the marketing. Once packaging, advertising, promotions. So these things you have to do when you do marketing. Introduce, you can, if it is a new product, you can introduce to a limited area and then expand the product diversification. And also you have to do market research. You can see whether your product, the customers are continually buy your product. So if you see that there's a problem in your product, you can improve your product. Okay, so therefore you have to do market research, not at the beginning before you start, but after you introduce your product to the market also, you can do your own market research and see whether your product is sustainable, whether it is sustaining better in the market. Okay, what are the factors associated with the product failures? So even though you have follow all these principles, all these points, sometimes your product may be fail in the markets. So these things sometimes due to lack of market knowledge on marketing. So if you don't have proper knowledge on marketing, sometimes your product can fail. So dynamic and competitive market. So some products, for example, if you are trying to introduce a biscuit to Sri Lankan market, there are a lot of giants who are doing biscuits. So it's really difficult for you to introduce your biscuit. Sometimes if you have some salient, some unique features in your biscuit, so sometimes you may be able to sell, but otherwise it's really competitive. So then there's a chance for your product to fail. And also some technical and technological problems. So that is why from the beginning, I told you, you have to be very careful about the technical things, and you have to get the correct technology and all. And sometimes your product price may be very high. So because of that, your product doesn't move. Okay. Sometimes distribution problems. So you can distribute onto a limited area. So then therefore your product can fail. Sometimes maybe internal conflict or quality. So sometimes you have the import restriction or export restriction. Due to those reasons, your products can fail. Poor product positioning on market shelves. That's also another point. So if your product is hide in the market shelves, or it is in the lower racks or something like that, the people will not see your products. So sometimes your product can fail. Okay, and also poor packaging. So poor packaging can deteriorate the quality of the product, and so also if the consumer attraction may not go towards poor packaging. So you have to have nice packaging. So other thing is bad timing of introducing the product to market. So I don't know if you are introduced your product, but you, without thinking about the time, you have introduced your product to the market. I take ice cream as an example, so you have developed a nice ice cream, but you have introduced it a very cold time, very rainy season, but people don't want to eat ice cream. But you are thinking, okay, this is the best season, and you are trying to get a feedback from people. So you have to time at which time you have to introduce to the market. And also if your product is too innovative ahead of the time, sometimes it may not achieve, it may not accept by the customer. So therefore you have to think about these things when you are introducing a product to market. Finally, I would like to, before I conclude this presentation, I would like to tell you how we can, ITI, Industrial Technology Institute, the institute where I work is help the food industry entrepreneurship development. We develop new food products and process technologies through scientific research, and then we do technology transfer. And also we do contract projects in collaboration with food industry. If anyone want to develop a new product, but they don't have infrastructure and also expertise. So they collaborate with my institute and do product development, and then they get the technology from us. And also we do consultancy, technical support and troubleshooting for all sorts of industries from multinational to MSME level. And also when we transfer the technology, we provide total package for food processing if they want, from site selection to establish a new processing facility, then factory and machinery layout designing, specification of machinery and equipment they need depending on the food product they are going to process, and also product technology comply to local and international standards, and also designing of packaging and labeling are based on food regulations, local regulation, and hygiene and sanitation regulation and maintenance within your facility. We do consult, we do advice, and also nutrition labeling, nutrition declaration, and quality analysis of your food items. And we do undertake scientifically validated shelf life determination and expiry date determination studies. And also we undertake thermal process validation studies for low acid canned food. So if you are doing canned fish industry or low acid food industry, you have to validate your retort. Retort means the processing vessel. It's to see whether the temperature distribution within the whole vessel is equal. Okay, and we do conduct training programs for industrialists, exporters, entrepreneurs, farmers, undergraduates, etc. So here I have shown some of the products we have developed and available in the market, not in our name, but some industrialist name. But these products are developed by ITI, our technologies. And yes, thank you for listening to my presentation. So if you have any question or clarification, I think you have time, Shamodi.
Yes, madam, we have time. We have enough time. And first of all, thank you so much for doing a very interesting session. So I know it's not an easy task to describe the whole process within an hour, but thank you so much as possible for summarizing everything in and step by step. And so now is the time for the Q&A session. Uh, so I would like to invite you all to ask the questions. Please unmute yourself and ask the questions.
I have a suggestion.
Yes,
Can I
sir.
speak? Yeah, right. Thank you very much. It's a very nice presentation, and it's very, very useful to the industries and the people who are getting into the industries or at all levels, small, medium, and large industries. I have one suggestion. If you could kindly write this in Sinhala, because this
Yeah.
goes to a separate audience. If you
Okay.
can write this as an article in Sinhala,
Okay.
I'm pretty sure the IFSTSL will be very happy to include it in their newsletter. So this is an invitation to you to write this as a Sinhala article so that you get the maximum distribution of your knowledge into the people who are mostly reading only Sinhala. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. I will do that by FST.
So thank you so much, sir, joining early in the morning from Canada. So is there anyone who needs some clarifications regarding our interested topic, how to start a sustainable food processing business? I believe you have more questions. So it's time to get the clarification. Uh, please ask your question.
No questions?
Seems like that,
Well,
madam.
they understood everything very clearly.
There's a question for a beverage business. Is there a specification for the water to be used and what sort of filters can we use? Actually, if you are doing any business, any food related business, there's a special standard, Sri Lankan SLA standard for water. I can't remember the number exactly. I think it's something. So you can get that standard from SLSI. So you have to adhere to that quality. Okay, so you don't have to use filters if your water is, very hard. If it is not hard, you don't have to use filters. If you are a area where you get very hard water only, you have to use filters. That also depending on the machinery you use. So that information you can get your mesh from your machinery supplier when you are ordering the machinery, whether you need the filters or not. Otherwise, anyway, if you are doing any business, it should come, the water should comply with the local regulation, local standard. It should be potable water or drinking water.
I would like to add something to what you said, Madam.
Yes, sir.
25 years back, when I was a consultant in the health ministry, we tested water from all the bottled water in Sri Lanka, and we found two producers having very low pH in their water. Then to work back, I found that both trademarks were from the same producer. So I phoned the producer and visited them, which he reluctantly allowed me to go. And then when I went there, it was outskirts of Colombo. He had a factory nicely done. He had a well from which he gets the water. I went and peeped into the well. It's beautiful, crystal clear water. He has a machinery, and also he has a bottle washing plant near the in the factory, and the water is sent into a Habaralagala down the factory. So to find all the water in the well is having a pH less than 4 or less than 4. And this is purely because in designing the factory, he did not get the advice from anybody. And when I talked to him, he said the municipality does not allow him to dispose his wastewater into the public drains. Therefore, he has dug a hole in the premises and put it there. And the distance between the well and the hole are so close. So there was a massive problem. So you could see, you now understand the value of what is said in this presentation for the industries to communicate with the technology people and find the information. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir and madam. So is there any other matters to be discussed? It's the opportunity for you guys. It seems like, madam, there are any other questions, so we can wind up the session. Before wind up the session, let me give my thank for you. Actually, madam, thank you so much for accepting our invitation, especially allocating your time in Sunday evening. And thank you again so much for discussing the most relevant, timely needed topics. In spite of the time we are struggling economically as a country. So I would believe that this will be a great opportunity for the audience to start their own business with the knowledge gathered here. So actually we are waiting for the newsletter articles as well, madam. Thank you so much for the everything. So I would like to thank our president, Professor Niranjana Pereira, and all of the IFSTSL EXCO members and the board of governors for behind the scene for inspiring us to do such sessions. Thank you so much. Thank you, the audience, for participating in this evening. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Bye.